Hank Shaw blogs, writes books, and earns good money. But since 2004, he's lived on only what he can forage, fish, or shoot. Shaw grew up in a family of New England naturalists and fishermen, but didn't own a rifle until his early 30s when he set out to be self-sufficient, at least when it came to food.
If you get rid of restaurants and you get rid of supermarkets, how many people would be able to feed themselves? Precious few. But I can do that.
One of his favorite meals is easily found, but he says undeservedly denigrated: squirrel.
If you can get over the fact that it's a bushy-tailed tree rat, it's a damn good meat.
Seated at Fire Food and Drink, he gets hungry looking not just at the menu, but also out the window at Shaker Square.
Well, there's a red oak tree right outside the door that has dropped acorns. There's a daylily across the square. Most of a daylily is edible. We've seen tons of hickory trees. We've seen tons of crab apples. We've seen tons of squirrels.
He likes to braise squirrel as they do in regions of Spain, with olives, walnuts, and white wine.
It's a little denser than chicken thigh, but has the very same color. And it sounds like a cliche, but you really do pick up nutty overtones to the meat.
Shaw bagged the state daily limit, 6 squirrels, again this season in Parkman, where he hunts with his friend Joe Keogh. The retired Geauga County Sheriff's deputy met the Sacramento-based writer through his blog, Hunter, Angler, Gardener, Cook.
We began corresponding, and I let him know that I could be a source of exotic protein. You were dabbling with a muskrat recipe at the time, and so I shipped him some frozen muskrat.
It's a rodent found in wetlands and swamps.
It's not at all like squirrel. It's very, very dark meat. It needs to be soaked quite a while before it's prepared. I like to do a slow braise, and I've used it to stuff ravioli and things like that. With a chestnut flour ravioli, that's pretty darn good with some sage. Yeah.
Shaw's found new recipes and many new friends on tour for his book, Duck, Duck, Goose, like Chef Doug Katz at Fire Food and Drink. Doug, have you ever cooked squirrel?
I have never cooked squirrel.
Will you?
I don't think so.
It's what Katz heard about Hank Shaw and duck that made him want to meet him. Duck confit's long been a staple on Fire's menu, but that's domesticated duck, more available than ever in farmers' markets and quality grocers and growing more popular in restaurants. Wild duck, though, can take some getting used to.
Squirrels and muskrats, venison, ducks, partridges, grouse, they all are meats that taste of themselves. And to someone who is used to eating domesticated animals that are fed on corn, which have a very, very mild and very limited flavor profile, these other meats will taste radically different to them.
Wild meats taste great, he says, unless improperly field-dressed or left out long enough to start to rot.
They're just flavorful. They're not gamey.
Top chefs like the Travel Channel's Andrew Zimmern and Anita Lowe, who beat Mario Batali in Iron Chef, eat up what Shaw says about wild cuisine. But some negative feedback comes from animal rights groups and vegans.
There are people who are very emotionally anti-hunting. That's okay. They're entitled to their opinion. But the majority of Americans appreciate a hunter who only takes the field essentially to find dinner. So if you're concerned about animal welfare and the pantheon of things that you need to be worried about, I'm kind of low on the list.
Shaw is part of a marsh-to-table movement that dovetails nicely with farm-to-table and local food advocacy.
Because people want to take control of what they feed themselves and their family. And they want to cut the middleman out. The industrial food system has failed us, and they're taking things into their own hands. And I think that's a good thing.
Shaw's advice to new hunters is to join clubs like Ducks Unlimited or Pheasants Forever that restore, maintain, and expand habitats. Quoting from one of his recent blog posts, "To not become a member of one of these groups is analogous to listening to public radio without pledging." And that's today's Quick Bite. Next week, we meet a pioneer among Northeast Ohio's culinary educators, Loretta Paganini, at her new restaurant. I'm Vivian Goodman, 89.7 WKSU.
Falls, may I help you? Yes, we are.
Abe Hijazi owns Falls Mediterranean Food Mart and Grill on Graham Road in Cuyahoga Falls. He's been open about a year.
Meat pies we make here, shawarma chicken, shawarma lamb, kebab, kafta. It is a halal kill, and that's what we believe is kosher too.
He says his meats are halal, the Arabic word for permissible. The Hebrew word kashrut, or in English kosher, has the identical meaning.
In the name of God, it been killed and be drained from the blood completely. It's halal and kosher at the same time.
Hijazi says a good percentage of his customers are Jews. One reason may be that there's a shortage of kosher butchers nearby. But Hijazi says his Jewish customers also know that the halal and kosher processes are essentially the same. The name of God is invoked at the time of slaughter, the blood is completely drained, and the animal is killed with a sharp knife. Jews and Muslims may disagree, but Rabbi David Kosek says not about this.
What the two traditions share in common is the requirement that animals be quickly slaughtered to minimize any pain or suffering to them by use of a knife.
In Islamic tradition, the method of slaughter is called dabiha, and the knife must not be sharpened in front of the animal. Like halal butchers, kosher butchers must use non-serrated knives.
Balet Chayim, the notion of not inflicting unnecessary suffering to animals, is a prime commandment in Judaism. And the laws of shchita, the laws of painless slaughter, represent that.
Rabbi Kosak, spiritual leader of Beechwood Shari Tikva Synagogue, was once in the food business.
In another life, it seems like, but yes, I was a chef, a caterer.
The rabbi's in his element at a Kosher Taste of Cleveland, the temple's annual fundraiser.
Let me just say a quick hello. Thank you. Okay.
The temple orders the meat, and chefs from 7 popular area restaurants, including Giovanni's, Edwin's, and Greenhouse Tavern, prepare the feast in Shari Tikva's kosher kitchen.
Wonderful things. I think someone's passing lamb lollipops. We've got mushrooms and romesco sauce from Edwin's restaurant. Beautiful carrot frite from the Greenhouse Tavern. All right, let's... Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri ha'adamah. Tastes like summer.
Would you like one? Yes. Can I get one fish soigné?
Cooking kosher's not hard for Chef Brian Goodman of the Greenhouse Tavern.
My grandmother kept a kosher kitchen at her home. It fell to the wayside a little bit with generations, but I was familiar.
The Greenhouse Tavern is known for its pig's head entree, but that won't do tonight. Goodman instead lays poached walleye on a bed of fresh smashed peas mixed with olive oil, lemon, and cilantro. Meanwhile, Chef Zach Ladner kept the rule about separating meat from dairy by making garlic mashed potatoes with olive oil instead of butter to accompany his braised beef flank and short ribs. Ladner says it's hard to keep kosher with what he usually cooks at Giovanni's.
It is, yeah, because especially when you're talking about Italian food, everything has cheese. So cheese and meat, you can't do that. But we make do.
Orthodox Jews obey dietary commandments handed down 3,000 years ago. But in the era of refrigeration, many Jews believe the ancient rules are no longer necessary. Rabbi Kosak says, though, that food safety was never the point of keeping kosher.
The laws of kashrut are given by God so that we would be holy. To refrain from eating just anything we want raises the human being up.
Abe Hijazi says keeping halal does the same for Muslims.
It's really important because when you face God, you have to be with the Islamic law and the Word of God.
Rabbi Kosak says Muslims and Jews are alike in this way.
We come in to know somehow God's expectations of humanity through the process of law.
At Falls Mediterranean Food Mart and Grill, at least when it comes to shopping for meat, Hijazi brings Jews and Muslims together.
God is God. There is no differential between Muslim or Jews. We're all God's creation. There's 276 religions in the world and one God.
And that's today's Quick Bite. Next week, we're heading to Ashland, where farmers and foodies unite at a new kind of farmers market. I'm Vivian Goodman, 89.7 WKSU. 22 prison inmates in jumpsuits, hairnets, and beard guards finish peeling their onions. They clutch long, sharp knives, tethered tightly to chopping boards, as Chef Brandon Krastowski demonstrates the technique.
So I'm using that blade, like this. Wow. Okay? Should be quick, should be easy. Don't forget, what are the 2 reasons you're going to get hired? Speed.
Save
or
money.
save someone money, or make someone money. So speed would save somebody money.
Chef Krastowski owns Edwin's, an upscale Cleveland restaurant. In this second year of his prison cooking class, graduates of the first class are already working for him at Shaker Square. That's Rich Anderson's dream.
I'm hoping to go through the Edwin's program out there when I leave here. I leave in January. I leave real soon. So we finish this program up in December, and I'm hoping to get a job with him, and he's going to help me get going and start a new life.
Chef Krastowski turned his own life around when he got the chance to attend the Culinary Institute of America after some time behind bars.
Nothing like what these men have to endure. I didn't do a long stretch. A little time in county jail. It's a lot more difficult what they're doing and where they have to battle out of.
Rich Anderson is a recovering alcoholic. After his 6th DUI, he pulled a long stretch, 5 years.
I've been praying for a while for some kind of a sign, what maybe was to come, and when I would leave here, I didn't know where it was going.
That changed when he got into the cooking class. There was space for 22 inmates, but 40 applied, and Anderson was one of the first.
Thought I might like it, and I ended up really liking it. It changed my whole life around. Now I really want to do it.
Chef Krastowski wants them to do it right. So for the first 4 months of the 6-month program, they stay in the classroom.
So Knife 101, the kitchen's built on this, on the fundamentals. These knife skills are going to help dictate the final product. So can anyone tell me a couple reasons why the knife skill is important? Safety, good. Anyone else?
So you get the most use out of your product, too.
The most use out of it. Right.
Students learn menu pricing and profit and loss analysis, as well as cooking and baking techniques. Their textbook, The Professional Chef, is the same one Krastowski used at the Culinary Institute of America to master the art of French cuisine. When inmates graduate, they'll receive National Restaurant Association certification. If Krastowski doesn't hire them, his many friends in Cleveland's tight-knit community of chefs usually will.
In fact, about a month ago, the gentleman called me, and within 2 days, he was working full-time, $11 an hour, and he's making his way back. Another success story is my very own pastry chef, Tony Smith, who's got a fabulous touch. He was actually in this class a year ago.
Warden's assistant Ron Umbruster knows from experience that Krastowski's students can cook.
We went to dinner at Brandon's restaurant a few months ago, and some of the gentlemen were working there that had been through the program already. Good to see them doing very well on the outside.
Lieutenant John Gannon handles security when the prisoners cook. He sees them change.
From the first class with knife skills of cutting an onion or potato, just seeing how they look at things differently, their attitudes change in the institution as well.
They start to help each other.
Just you hold it like this, and you push in. Like this? Just like that.
Not all the students are in it to get jobs.
I get out April 27, 2017.
Ronald T. Martin of Painesville just wants to learn.
It gives me different skills, for when I get home. Some of us never cooked before. I have 2 daughters, ages 11 and 10. I like learning new meals for them instead of just mac and cheese.
Chef Krastowski operates the prison cooking school without government support. He donates his own time and says the United Black Fund is the program's biggest supporter. Christopher Reynolds of Cleveland gets out next year. He says he'll benefit from Krastowski's help, even if it doesn't lead to a restaurant job.
Brandon makes you feel like a person and not just a number, and it helps us feel somewhat normal in an environment like this.
They're getting a look at a restaurant environment, too. In this second year of the program, Krastowski has added video conferencing between Edwin's and the prison kitchen. And that's this week's Quick Bite. I'm Vivian Goodman, 89.7 WKSU.